Ed, you still working at home?
Yep.
Are you?
All right, Rainey, we
Yes.
are streaming, so let's go ahead and get started.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the April 20th, 2021 meeting of the Bloomington Transportation Commission. My name is Renee Bradley, and we're going to start, and according to the clock, it's 4:23. Every clock I can see says 4:23. So I guess we will start with the roll call. Mr. Allen.
Commissioner Beneke,
Present.
Commissioner Bradley,
Yes.
Commissioner Brightweiser,
Present.
Commissioner Corey. Not sure if he's one of the phone numbers I'm seeing up there or not. He was going to be calling in. We'll come back to him. Commissioner Sanders.
Here.
Okay. We have at least 4, and I'll confirm whether John's on, but we have our quorum.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, public comment. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't see anyone here for public comment, so I guess we're moving ahead. The item number 4, the minutes, the review and approve of minutes of the September 15th, 2020 regular meeting of the Bloomington Transportation Commission and the February 10th special joint meeting with the Planning Commission. And Mr. Allen, did you have something you'd like to add or subtract there?
I've got just a couple quick changes on the joint meeting minutes from the way that they were compiled and approved by the Planning Commission. Namely, under the roll call for Transportation Commission, it would be removing David Stanzik, Sheila Montney, John Dannenberger, who I think just got copy and pasted from above, and then Mr. Heenan, who is no longer on our commission.
Mhm.
And then on page 4, the first full paragraph where it references Kevin Cothe, he's the changing city engineer to public works director.
Okay.
So the motion would be to approve the minutes with the changes reported, unless anybody else has any comments.
Okay, can we approve both items together, or do we have to do them separately?
Yeah, I think we can put them together.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from September 15th, 2020? Okay,
I'll so
everybody is
move.
making a motion that we approve these with the changes from Mr. Allen.
Second.
And Mr. Brightweiser is seconding that. And I guess we need to have voice approval of that. So everybody, let's signify by saying aye. Eddie?
No, I need to call roll. I think.
Oh, we need to call roll. Okay, then that's what we're gonna do then. Okay, go right ahead, Bill.
Commissioner Beneke,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Brightweiser,
Aye.
Commissioner Corey, still not joined us, and Commissioner Sanders.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to move along to the regular agenda. Item A is the pedestrian street crossing treatment policy review and approval, and I'm just going to assume that, Phil, you have something to share with us. Correct?
Thanks, Rini. As we have continued to do various projects around town, whether it's resurfacing or other projects, we thought it would maybe be a good idea to just kind of put together this quick policy that we've kind of informally been using, but just to get this formally approved. This is a policy level board, one of which the responsibilities of is to approve things at the policy level. So this is very applicable to what we do. Gonna try not to regurgitate everything in the packet, but in quick, we did start with the FHWA guideline that was recently put out and then updated. So it's new information as of a couple of years ago relative to pedestrian treatments. It's based on several research projects and various studies and data that have been gathered over the last years, but this is really a good summary of what current recommendations are. It's with this, they've moved away a little bit from entirely focusing on vehicles and attempted to put some other, bring everybody else on board. One of the reasons that we liked this is one, because it is data-based, but also because it really allows a good table where we can take a crossing or a street or a location and get a clear set of recommendations that are applicable to that location. There's lots of other good guidance documents out there. You know, NACTO has some good stuff, ITE, some other groups. But a lot of those are more, this is a treatment, this is the types of situations where it would be okay. Whereas this really kind of works the other way. We can look at our location and have it point to what treatments we should be considering. To kind of hit real quick on the way that the table works, you have, let's see if I can share the screen here real quick.
Yeah, the page that I think we're looking at is A44 for Bloomington, is that correct?
I've got to look, I just have it up, I apologize.
This one here?
I'm going to bring up the city version of the table on A44, yeah. Yeah.
A44, yeah, if you, one of you, oops, what did I just do? There it is.
All right.
I think that's helpful to have a look at that.
So there was lots of information in that packet. I think it was 41 or 42 pages long. But really the crux of it boils down to this table. And we've got the different lane configurations for each rows. We've got things broken out based on volumes. And then if the number is listed, here's the treatments down in this corner, but if a number is listed, then that signifies that that particular countermeasure is a candidate treatment. So it's something that would be a good fit there. If it has a dark circle around it, that means that it should always be considered, not always implemented. You know, it mentions not mandated or required, but it's something that you should think about and consider doing. And then if there's something with a open circle around it, it says that it usually occurs with something else. So for example, on a, let's go with a 3000 ADT row, 3 to 9, 7 is the RFB. So they're saying if you have over 40 mile an hour, consider the RFB. And if you're doing that, you also have to have the signs and the marked crosswalks, because that's got the always consider circle, and then it has the install the signs in conjunction with the other item. So one of the big things that we saw was kind of missing. And I'm going to hop over. This is the same table out of the federal document. You can see they've really grouped everything in the ADT category as just everything under 9,000. In addition to that covering a huge portion of our streets around town, it also doesn't really recognize that a 400 ADT road really is different than a 6,000 ADT road, which is different than a 9,000 ADT road. So we tried to take that category and we broke it out to add both a 3,000 to 9,000 ADT category, a 1,500 to 3,000, and then kind of our catch-all for anything that was lower than 1,500 ADT. We just basically say should be evaluated based on site-specific conditions. The reason being, in those situations, there's relatively few cars. So things such as the presence of a school or something of that nature is really going to be what drives that consideration more so than the speed of the vehicles that may not even be present during most of the day. So anything that's in here on blue, that's highlighted blue, is where we deviated in some way from the FHWA document. Obviously, these two, I should make this one blue too, but these two columns, this one's completely new, and then the 3 to 9 was fairly similar. We changed the treatments just a little bit on some of those on the lower speed volumes. We added RRFB in the 4 lane with the raised median for over 40 mile an hour, with the understanding that, practically speaking, if we were to implement that, we would put the RRFBs not just on the outside curbs, but we would also put them in the median. So for a driver approaching that, they're going to see the RFB on the right-hand side and then on the left side of their lanes in the median. So on a 4-lane road with a raised median, that's effectively going to look like them as a 2-lane road, because the pedestrians would be crossing just 2 lanes to get to a refuge. So
if you just take a pause here, an example of that would be down on Front Street. Is that be correct? Where you put the, what do they call those, rectangular RFBs, the rapid flashing beacons, RFB, where there's a median, and then, so as you said, it turns it into a 2-lane road because it's split with a median. Is that correct? Is that an example?
Sort of. It is, in that it's got the median with the refuge that we would be seeing. Okay. But this is more for if you've got 4 lanes. So picture like a Hershey Road, for example, or a Hamilton, or some of our 4-lane streets. Mm-hmm. If there was a raised median in the middle of that, so you could take that crossing at Front Street and add, so it's 2 lanes in each direction.
Okay, so it would be a bigger deal than Front Street.
Correct. It would be the bigger roads. And they, the federal guideline had that not being, we think that was not in there because they were looking at it as you're crossing 4 driving lanes plus a raised median. So someone who's crossing that street is essentially walking 60-ish feet across by the time they crossed all 4 lanes in the median. And that would be true if we were only installing the RFBs on the outside edges. But since, like I said, we would also be installing it on the center like we did on Front Street. So mm-hmm. The RFBs are only going to be 25 feet apart as opposed to 60 feet apart. So it would have that same impact as a 2-lane road would. So I'd get more into the weeds there. But I think I'll just stop right there unless anybody has any questions or comments.
Well, I have some comments here. I think this is a terrific idea. To me, it looks at, once again, it looks at a scientific approach to safety, which I have always supported in my safety career. The idea that science can apply, it's not just anecdotal. I do think there has been some call for how can we improve on pedestrian injuries and fatalities. I have always thought, I've expressed that every time there's a serious pedestrian incident, I think we needed to look at why and what possibly could be done about it, even though there certainly is a wide range of why pedestrians get hurt. This looks at things from a scientific perspective of the speed and the frequency and all of those factors when it comes to pedestrians, which is really kind of an unpredictable group of people out there. I was very happy to see that you took the federal guidelines and broke it down to something that is usable and applicable to what's really here going on in Bloomington Normal. I mean, if you look at the federal, it's just almost like it's so broad, and maybe that was their intent, was to give a map, a template to the people who would be using this and let you apply your own, traffic statistics to it. But certainly, as you had said, we don't have a whole lot that would meet the federal, was it 9,000 vehicles per day and above? Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't have that many streets that
So this breaks it down further, down to the average daily count of vehicles down to 1,500 to 3,000. I think that's terrific. I think this really is a real opportunity for an added step of safety in our community. Anybody else have a comment, or
I think Ricky Lee had her hand up.
Lee?
There we go.
Yes.
Hey, thanks. I just had a question regarding in the guide. I noticed that it did not describe or address any ADA requirements, and it specifically told you that. And in Illinois, with the Illinois Accessibility Code, what is that? How is that playing into the city of Bloomington's proposal here?
So these guidelines are meant more around what I'm going to say, the traffic control side of it. What do the pavement markings look like? What do the signage look like to warn of the crossing? Certainly any ADA laws that are in effect would be followed. But that's kind of outside of the intent of this. So for example, if we're putting in a new crosswalk, we would look at ADA or ProWag to determine ramp slopes and widths and locations and such as part of the construction details for sure. This is going to tell us, are we going to mark the crosswalk? Are we going to use the 2 bars? We're going to use the high visibility ladder crosswalk? Are we going to just put up a crosswalk warning sign? Are we going to use the advanced sign? Are we going to use the RFB? What are we going to do to help protect pedestrians who are using the crosswalk more so than how is the crosswalk physically being constructed? So certainly any ADA requirements would be followed, but that's just coming out of a different document that is
Right,
more
because there are some signage, of course, that have the different specs and requirements as well for the signage and for various beacons. So I was just wondering how that, but if it's separate, that's fine, and as long as it's being addressed.
For example, this document may strongly suggest the use of an RFB. When we go to design it, then we would look and see, okay, what are the requirements for the push button that goes on there to activate it? What's the sign that goes with the push button? You know, what are the requirements for the level landing that goes at the base of the push button? You know, that type of stuff we're pulling out of either the ADA guide or, you know, I mentioned ProWag, which is something the accessibility board, for those who maybe aren't familiar with it. It's the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines, which they basically took the ADA requirements, which are applicable to private areas, buildings and such, and applied those in a way that that fits better sometimes with what's happening in the public right-of-ways as far as streets and sidewalks. You know, the example that really always stands out to me is, you know, where there's a maximum of 5% grade for walking routes through a building. But when you're dealing with a street that has a grade of 9 or 10%, how do you justify that? Well, one of the allowances they made is that the grade of the sidewalk can match the grade of the street, so that you're not having to tear down all the buildings alongside of it and do crazy grading in order to flatten that out with switchbacks and everything else. So it's that type of thing. So, and at any rate, yeah, well, we would be looking at ProWag most likely in this, and the ADA as it would fit as well. Sorry, long answer.
Oh, no, thank you. That greatly explains that. So again, I echo what Rini said earlier about the layout and the details in this, I think are very good. So thank you for that.
Any other comments or questions here?
I think Ed has his hand up.
Ed?
Yes, thank you. Just first off, echoing again the kudos to the team for putting so much thought and organization into this. I'm glad we got together to explain it, because the table baffled me at first, but this helps a lot. One question more just for clarification than anything else. So I understand the reasoning why you broke out the kind of sub columns below 9,000 AADT, but just for a frame of reference, could you give us some roads that would fall into each of the different column categories to kind of help visualize what we're dealing with? You're on mute, Phil.
I can. If you give me a second, I'll pull up a map where I can actually, where I'm not guessing.
While you're pulling that up, anticipating a follow-up question I might have, I'm assuming, based on Reni's comments earlier, I'm assuming that we have very, very few roads that fall into the kind of rightmost columns. I'm thinking of maybe ones like veterans and stuff like that, which would fall more to IDOT than I'm assuming this.
Yeah, I would think so too. Those would be more state roads, like.
Right. And
like
is
veterans.
is IDOT expected to follow similar guidelines as this, or?
I can't speak to what their internal policies are on their highways. This is coming from the Federal Highway Administration. It is a guide, and it was put together really as a tool for agencies to use to help develop policies and such. I don't think we would be able to force IDOT to do anything specific with this table.
Yeah.
Or with this policy. But I would expect that what they're doing is not too far from it.
Okay.
Can everybody see this map that I pulled up? Or is it still
I'm gonna say no.
still on the table? Is it still on the table?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me just throw out a couple of spots.
If you just give us an example in each category, we'd be able to.
So Oakland Avenue between, let's say, Mercer and Hannah, where 150 goes south,
Yeah.
is about 7,300 ADT. So it's going to be at the upper range of that, certainly of the 0 to 9, but kind of in the middle then of the $3,000 to $9,000 range. Washington Street.
I'd say there at Tawana might be the busiest. That is, right? By Washington School at Tawana.
Map is not panning like it's supposed to be. Morris over on the west side from 6 Points pretty much up to Washington is around 5,000 ADT on those two lanes. Veterans Parkway varies quite a bit, but down on the south side between say Mercer and Maine, it's 26,000. So that's the higher end. If anybody has a street they want to know specifically, let me know. But
what would be? Do you have an example between the 1,500 and 3,000?
Excuse me, above 15,000.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to get a sense for is like what's below 1,500.
Oh, 1,500. Okay.
below 1,500 is really, it's going to be more your local streets.
Yeah.
My cul-de-sac.
Right, and then what's above 1,500? What's the 1,500 to 3,000? Do you have an example there?
Here's that's within the subdivision. Sorry, my
Grove-
website
Grove
is not,
Street,
is
maybe?
not being responsive at all.
Yeah, I would say maybe Grove Street from Mercer to
That's a good example.
downtown
Yeah.
might be an example. 1,500 to 3,000 day.
And Kevin, if you have any of these, off the top of your head, please feel free to jump in here. Kevin has a crazy knack for retaining numbers. Tawana, no, that's higher.
Yeah,
I was going to say there's going to be like some sections like on Colton and stuff like that where you'll be in the 1,500 to 3,000 range.
yeah, with the school there, that's a,
There you
yeah,
go.
those
Yep.
those little pockets are good examples. Where you
Yep.
think it's, I mean, Colton, what's on Colton? Well, then you turn around and think, well, then there's both of the schools there. That's a good example.
Colton between Empire and Locust, they're along the junior high.
Mhm.
It ranges between 1,000 and 1,400. So that would kind of fall in that lower range.
Hmm.
That helps me. Thank you.
And the site that I went to, if anybody ever wants to kind of put this in context, if you go to gettingaroundillinois.com
Mhm.
and scroll down a little bit, there's an ADT page, and it shows all the ADTs that have been collected around the cities. You just kind of got to scroll in and out a little bit, but if as you're in the future, if you're reviewing stuff like this and you want to have an idea, that's a good source to go to, and then just kind of look and see where the streets fall.
Okay.
Other questions?
Any more questions or discussion on this? I think this is going to be a very, very good tool for moving ahead, similar to the street repaving. It's kind of a slow start, but once it gets going, I think this, and then also for future use as well, I think this is really going to, in the long run, make things easier when you go to look at a street and what does it need and how can we, fix any problems, and certainly how can we address pedestrian issues without looking at it in an anecdotal way. So I say thumbs up. So,
We would be looking for a motion to approve the proposed policy,
yes.
unless there's further discussion.
Is there any further discussion on this? Anybody else have anything they want to add here? This is, I guess I would be looking for a motion to approve this so that the engineering can move ahead with implementing this. Do we have a motion from anybody?
So moved.
Oh, okay, we have a motion from
Yeah.
Ed and from a second from Ricky Lee. Are you looking for I guess, I don't know how you vote here. So,
I'll do a roll call unless there's any other discussion.
gotta do a roll call so that we can put it on the record. This is difficult when we're not here in person, so go ahead.
Commissioner Beneke,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Brightweiser,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanders.
Aye.
And Commissioner Corey, have you joined us yet?
I say that's a no. Okay. Okay, it appears that has passed, correct? So we'll get that in the record. Item B, the April 2021 citizen complaints, comments, summary, review and discussion. Maybe people are driving less, but we seem to have fewer of these. And there seems to be just a lot of wanting restricted parking, wanting stop signs. Everybody wants a traffic calming device. Is there anything anybody wants to pull out of there individually to talk about? Or is this just for our information once again?
Primarily for your information, but if you have questions, let me know. Again, this just came out of a request for information about the type of requests that we get. And,
Yeah, this is always interesting.
and what's
for me to
happening with
see
them.
Kind of what you guys are doing and how what is it you address issues from the citizens who I feel like we represent to a large degree. So, anybody have anything they want to talk about on the list?
This is Eddie. I had just one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I don't recall having seen one of these come through before. Number 106. request for a deaf child warning sign.
Mhm.
More out of curiosity than anything else, how do we handle those requests?
You're looking at number 106 there, Phil, a deaf child warning sign on Eagle Crest Road between the 3200 and 3300 block. And how that is handled.
So we'll go out and evaluate the situation, probably talk with the requester and find out what the circumstances of it. We usually do not put up and not speaking to this one specifically, but we don't like to put up warning signs for situations that are intermittent or not a fixed thing that's there all the time. The reason being, a lot of times when drivers, if they see like the children at play is a good sign. If you see a children at play sign and you drive through there every day and you never see any kids, you start to ignore the sign and drive. It doesn't have any effect. And then the once or twice, maybe there is a child out there playing, they may think that, the drivers know that I'm here, so I can go, chase my ball into the street or do whatever. And there's a false sense of security that can sometimes occur, which
I think the stats have bear that out. I mean, I think nationwide, I think the stats bear that out, but some of these signs are not only ineffective, but have perhaps the opposite effect. So I don't know if that it depends on the sign, but yeah.
Now, speaking to this one a little bit more specifically, with it being a deaf child warning, the conversation that I'm going to have with them is going to deal with, does the child out in the front often? Find out what the severity of the condition is, because we do recognize that there's a little bit of a difference with, for example, a deaf child, in that they're not necessarily going to have the awareness that a car is coming down the street if they can't hear them and their back is turned in the other direction. Similarly, there might be some benefit to a driver because even if they don't see that child out there every day, knowing that there's a chance of it and the situations, it's just a little bit different. So I'm not sure exactly where we're going to end up on that one.
It depends too on how old the child is too. I mean,
Yeah.
if the kid is 15 and they're just requesting a sign, or if the
Absolutely.
kid is 2.5 and starting to toddle out into the street, I would say, there's so many, and that's why I would say it's situational.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can understand that. Anything else there? These kind of look like there didn't see anything new and exciting in these. So, okay, let's move ahead, I guess, to old business, number 6. Any old items brought back by the commission?
I've got just one or two things I want to give updates on. We talked a little bit at our last meeting back last fall, when we talked about the bike trail project. The Baywood and Tawana Barnes intersection came up. There had been a pedestrian that was crossing Tawana Barnes that had been hit out there. At that point in time, I mentioned that we were just still gathering data. We've done that. We've talked with the county quite a bit, and we think we've come up with some countermeasures that we're going to do. The county's going to install some additional pedestrian crossing signs, potentially with and I believe they are putting in also the speed radar feedback signs, to try to help slow people down a little bit on Tawana Barnes. We're going through and redoing some of the ramps and realigning the sidewalks a little bit. Right now, the crossing is on the south side of the street, and we are going to realign that so that it's on the north side of the street. What that does is shortens the crossing because there's no southbound right turn lane. There's a northbound right turn lane out there. So it makes it a shorter distance for people to get across the street. And then it also allows us to get the ramps oriented a little bit better too. So combination of things that are happening, but we do have some things that are going on there. And obviously we'll keep an eye on it as we move forward too. So,
Well, that's good to hear because that area, just with the lay of the land, the hills, the speed, is kind of a, recipe for an incident there just because, and also it's being built up. There's more people out there than there used to be. People trying to go to the park and the lay of the land, the hill kind of sneaks up on you there, as a pedestrian. So I'm glad to see the work with the county on that, and hopefully we can avoid another incident there. Anything else in old business? Bill?
that's all I have.
Well, let's move ahead to new business.
I don't have any new business either.
Okay, commissioner comments.
I do have one more quick thing to say on commissioner comment that I'm going to jump in on. Everybody, I sent an email about this. Did everybody get their statement of economic interest filed? Do you know what I'm talking about? The SEI form. Ricky Lee, did you end up getting yours? After?
I remember it from last year. I'll have to double check and see if I have it this year.
Okay.
And that's due May 1st, is that right?
That's due May 1st. If it's not completed by May 1st, I think there's a $5 penalty per day. And then if it's not completed by May 15th, it jumps up to like $200 a day. And then after a month, I think you're removed from your seat or something along those lines. But it's pretty important to get it done. It basically just identifies any potential conflicts of interest that people may have. So.
Alicia, are you familiar with that? I think you may be one of the newer ones on here, so I'm probably the only one that doesn't have it.
If you haven't completed it and don't know what I'm talking about and haven't seen it, let me know and we'll get it resubmitted. The county sends them out based on the email addresses at the.
Once you've done it once, it's pretty easy. You have to adjust it the first time. It's the tough one.
I'm not sure I did it right, but I did
They'll
something.
tell you. They will tell you if you don't do it right. So you just have to make an effort, try to get it done, and once you get
Some of the
process
questions.
started. At least they know that you're talking about it. That's good.
Some of the questions are not worded the clearest, but anyway.
That's the truth. That's
Right.
the truth.
Okay. Are we done?
Adjourn.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
The motion to adjourn? Anyone? A motion to adjourn.
A motion
Okay,
to
Alicia.
adjourn.
Thank you. Alicia makes a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Ed. Do-
Commissioner Beneke,
Hi.
Commissioner Bradley,
Yes.
Commissioner Brightweiser,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanders.
Yes.
We're done. Thank you. Sorry for all the hiccups at the beginning there with the technical difficulties.
Thank you.
All right, y'all take care.
Nice to
Thank
see
you.
I guess it's down to just us, right? Oh. All right. Well, I think this is terrific. This is the way that transportation stuff should move, is in this type of direction. That's cool.